have you or your team been able to remote view regarding the People's Liberation Army activity on the U.S. and its impacted U.S. citizens? As an example, cyber attacks, missile launch, continental invasion of the U.S., or something else? That's the end of the question.
Two things. We have been and are still being attacked on two fronts. Cyber-wise and economically, and they will win. China will win on both those fronts. And the Chinese have long-term plans. When I was an intelligence officer, we were focused a lot on the Russians, the KGB, and others. But and East Germany, when it existed, these countries had short-range plans, 5 years or so, in order to effect an operation. The Chinese have 25 and 50-year plans. When we're going to wake up one day and China will own us. Believe me, they will own us literally. They're going to own our real estate. They're going to own our land. All the chips that think about this. If you don't think it's real, it is. Most of the chips, there was a time, I was involved in this, and this consortium that tried to get U.S. companies, Texas Instruments, IBM, Intel, to come together and make a facility that would make our own homegrown computer chips that didn't have any bugs in them. I'll explain what a bug is in a minute. But everybody held their cards so close to their chest that U.S. companies wouldn't work together on that because they were afraid of losing technology and information, intellectual information. So that never happened. So we continued to buy chips from the Chinese. Well, I got to tell you, some of these chips in our planes and boats and trains have little devices that can be triggered and that will shut them down. And now, of course, very quietly, the Department of Defense in my country is very concerned about this, but it's too late. It's already happened. And where are these chips? In which computers? In which aircraft? In which control system? In which radar control system? Where are they? So that's that second front I'm talking about. Economically, just look around. We're going to be puppets on strings very soon economically, and the Chinese will be pulling the strings. They are now.
Okay. There's two more questions. So the next catastrophic earthquake will occur on the New Madrid fault that will result in the operational disruption of the Fort Calhoun nuclear power plant facility, and an accident will result. So
I don't think I talked specifically about Fort Calhoun, though. I mentioned that the danger is there, but I did not predict that particular facility would be another Fukushima or Chernobyl.
Okay. So recent studies have shown that earthquake activities increase after years of significant rainfalls. The Midwest is now experiencing significant, actually record rainfall and flooding. Does remote viewing indicate that the next disastrous earthquake in the Midwest will occur within the next 4 months, or could it be further out?
We can't tell. Since mine is outside of time, all we can do is look at the future. We've solved the location problem, but not the time problem yet. We have not solved that. I don't know if it's soluble. Certainly on my watch, I don't know. So what we try to do is bracket things. We look ahead at the nearest preceding recognizable events, and when those occur, then we can say, oh, okay, this next thing is relatively imminent. But as far as putting time, temporal, calendrical dates and times on things, we cannot do it. We can always see the event very, very easily. These big events are simple for even a basic skill remote viewer to pick up on and describe. But it would be a tantamount, and I've used this example before in public forums. If I were to look at a mountain in the distance, a very large mountain, that would be analogous to seeing in remote viewing, perceiving a particular event up ahead. But I have no parallax and no way to measure the distance between where I am now and where that mountain is without lots of experience. I can't do it. I can give you a rough idea. Well, that's maybe 40 miles away or 30 miles away, but that's all. We have an analogous problem in remote viewing. We don't have a time standard or any metric whatsoever to measure distance and time.
Okay. Thank you for that. And
I have next. That's why this idea of next is very important to us. We have to qualify temporarily where we want our focus to be. If I were to remote view you, I can do that, but without a temporal qualifier on our search term, next, past, future, present, that kind of thing. Without that, my mind can access you anywhere from birth to death. And it may not be that where I may want to be inside your mind now if you have a psychological problem, or I'm helping a therapist help you, and I need to go in and find out what happened in your past that influences your quality of life now. Then I have to go into your mind, and I have to make sure that I'm not there in the future, because I don't care about the future. I need to be able to direct my unconscious to your mind in the past, vis-a-vis that particular syndrome, to use an example.
Okay, thank you for that. And one last detailed question. In 2003, you indicated the Manju breeder reactor would experience a powerful earthquake and a tsunami that would result in a severe nuclear accident with the release of plutonium. The accident at the Manju breeder reactor would lead to the Japanese government sell-off of U.S. treasuries in order to finance the cleanup, which would in turn collapse and destroy the U.S. dollar, leading to worldwide economic collapse. On June 17th of this year, the Japanese have acknowledged a 6,600-pound object that impacted the interior casing of the liquid sodium-cooled Manju breeder reactor, which the government is still trying to remove at this time. Does remote viewing see an accident at the Manju breeder reactor facility, or does the accident at the Fukushima Daiichi facility complete Japan's X-day remote viewing prediction of 2003?
It's Fukushima. And by the way, I think they removed that object from Manju. It's Fukushima. We did not have this geofix tool, this location tool, available to us in 2003. It's very recent, within the last 2 years, and it's only been refined this year in terms of precision. I'm talking about GPS type level precision. So what I had to do in 2003 is take my sketches and my team's sketches of the particular reactor and match them with all of the northern Japanese reactors that were there at the time. And the best I could do was say, well, these sketches look like Manju, and it's in the general area. But I was off. It's Fukushima.
Okay.
Now it's very different. With this remote viewing geofix tool, we can pinpoint the location, regardless of whether, even if it's a bunker that looks the same as 200 other weapons bunkers, we can say it's this particular structure that houses whatever or is going to blow up. And we couldn't do that then, especially if it's a homogeneous environment.
Okay. Thank you very much for that detailed answer.
Pleasure.
Hi, Ed. Just going back to New Madrid, you did quite a good detail on Coast to Coast with George Norrie earlier this year in what you thought was going to happen, but could you give us a little bit more specifics in regards to that? For example, what type of drawings did your guys make on the maps they made? Was it similar to Edgar Casey's half the America being cut in half? Was there other details that you might want to fill us in on?
No, there's not too many other details. It was all my work. I did it at the spur of the moment because I was interested after Fukushima and saying, gee, what's next along these lines? So the search term that I used, was I didn't specify. Yes, I did. I specified North America, next major North American earthquake with mass casualties and destruction. I can't remember the specific search term. I have to go back in my records and look. But that's what led me. My sketches were of an area, just a wide area, and then I used geofix to pinpoint the area down to within about 3 miles, and that's what placed it right on top of the New Madrid fault, right there. So no, we don't have any other we don't get our imagination involved, and that's because that's what would happen if we attempted to take that little bit of information, as powerful and as useful as it might be, and expand upon it. We'd be using our imagination to do that. We'd have to go back in as remote viewers with a specific agenda, a specific focus on the extent, and we'd have to outline what we mean by extent and those kinds of things. So it's a very precise tool that's extremely focused in terms of what you want out of it. It would be we don't go in with very often with a very general search term. We're pretty specific because that's the easiest way to analyze the information when you have specific detail.
So in this case, it was a single blind target. It was you by yourself trying to interpret it. Is that right?
Correct. And using geofix to pinpoint the location. But I specified catastrophic and loss of life in the search term.
And you wouldn't, from your interpretations of your images, you wouldn't be able to tell if it was one earthquake or a series of earthquakes, which New Madrid seems to have a history of.
It's a specific one. I did not a series. It's a specific one. For instance, the kill shot we know is a series of very catastrophic solar flares, whereas earthquake means just that, bam, one time, and it could be more. But what the matrix gave me was a bam, one-time shot, and there may be more than that, or there may be others that lead up to it. But the one that was specified by my cue was just a single, very large earthquake.
Thank you. Lenny, you have a follow-up?
Yes, Ed, this is Lenny, and I wanted to ask you about two things. One is you were talking about the chips that the Chinese are making, and I was wondering, well, what percentage of chips are in our transportation and in our energy systems and that are Chinese? And then what is the estimate of the percentage of chips that would be infected or manipulated? I mean, how big of a problem are we looking at?
We don't know. We know we have a serious problem, but we don't know, and the rest of that's classified. The Department of Defense is on top of that. They would win the economic war 20 years ago. They knew they would win. They watched the U.S. become exactly the way the Soviet Union was. We're going to go down in a very similar fashion, and we're going down, and we're not going to come back up. There's going to be new world powers out there, new leaders, and it's not going to be us.
Okay. Well, on a positive note, you were talking about the about the uses of remote viewing, and it sounded like you could actually do some psychotherapeutic work with remote viewing by going back and finding out what the incident was that messed up a person.
Yeah, sometimes therapists and shrinks don't like us to do that because their money stops if they can solve the problem. So they like to keep the patient coming in. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being real about this. But if it's a psychosomatic problem that's very serious, let's say a child who's been raped either once or repeatedly by a family member and locked that up, well, that's going to affect quality of life as an adult. Or let's say a person has agoraphobia and doesn't know why, fear of open spaces. Remote viewer in 40 minutes can solve that problem like that. Go back, look at the cause of the agoraphobia, and it could be we could sketch a little girl and describe a little girl waiting for a school bus being attacked by a large vicious dog, and that bus stop could be in a big open space, and every time she's in one, that memory comes back that's locked up of this dog, and she doesn't know why she's reacting that way. Well, remote viewer can go right back in and sketch the etiology, whether it's a one-time event or a series of the problem. So a very effective tool, and hypnotherapy and other forms of therapy can't do it. They take over and over again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what the business we're involved in is direct knowledge. There's no middleman. There's no red tape. Cause and effect, connectivity.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Hi, I have a couple questions regarding things off-planet for a change. Jay Widener and others have postulated the existence of a secret space program other than the official NASA program we have all heard about. This secret